Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, I don't know, but I used to drive Grab as well. If you guys don't know. Of course, I bump to many people. You listen to them. But I think still, as compared to the US, I think they said they are more polarized than ever in that sense. So I don't know. I mean, we are polarized. Probably we are, like Nandini said, we are systematically discriminated in some sense. Of course, there is that thing, motive action and whatnot. But I think overall, the people are, to me, fantastic. Even though to a certain extent, the people are also voting for the government, in a certain sense, they are not, they also to be blamed in some sense. But I think in general, I think that's why we still have people like Eddie, like you, like Pat, who appreciate the beauty in the Malaysian people in that sense. Yeah, Joel,
Boon,
sorry.
I may interject. My observation, which Eddie, maybe you could validate if it's true or not. I think that, racism in Malaysia is very political. It is very political in nature, whereas racism in a country like the US, it's a bit more systemic. It is not only politics, it's, from what I've read and seen, it is at every strata of society, which makes it very much entrenched. One of the papers one of the modules that I teach in my portfolio is global studies global business management and all that. How do you do business and deal with people from different cultures? And I tell my Malaysian students, if you think that Malaysia has a major racist problem, I'm going to introduce to you now how it was in the US 40, 50 years ago. When the blacks were denied entry into the white schools, and how they were relegated to the back of buses, on how they had separate what they call it, water fountains for them to drink. I will then introduce them to people like Rosa Parks, who started the entire thing of overcoming. And I think that is my observation. Like in Malaysia, I feel that, like what Boon was saying, I feel that the common man, you and me, Rakyat Mahain, we are actually pretty cool. There's no there. We don't tend to amplify the differences between us. We're always looking for a common point. But when it comes to politics, unfortunately, that is how it gets. It gets also terrifying. It becomes something that we have got a major racial problem. But as a common man, I don't see it. You see, but in the US, it's a bit more scary from what I've read so far.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks. Eddie.
But you see, the racial polarizations of the like really, I experienced. Like some of my friends will tell me on Facebook, I still keep in touch with them, and they will say, "Oh, today is not as bad," but I think not really. To me, when I look at the whole situation, well, my own experience over there in the US, there are a few times. So one time is that I went and visited one of my friends who in Chicago. She was a black lady, and I took along another friend with me. I say because I went to his house first, okay, who is a white guy, and I say let's go and visit the other person who is in Chicago, who is in black neighborhood. I'm Asian and I'm Malaysian. I have no idea what was going on. So I took a bus there. When the bus beginning to feel more and more black people, my friend began to get tense and more tense. Okay. And because being an Asian boy, the black ladies in the bus were just like found me very interesting, and they would talk to me and stuff like this. So throughout the whole time, I didn't realize that he was very tense because he was going into a black neighborhood. So it's the same thing as one time I was doing some mission work, and in the black neighborhood, poor black neighborhood, and I took two black boys in my center to the church that I attended. Attending at the time was all white, and the moment I took them there, they were very, very tense also, very, very tense. And then later, but everybody treated them quite well. But only later, the pastor told me that there was a piece of paper passed around in the church and say, we had 2 colored boys in our congregation today. And no wonder during that service, the pastor actually said, Eddie, I'm very glad that you brought your friends here today. He purposely stood up and said that. So these are the things. And then later that when I talk to them, they say that they don't feel safe. Which never if I go to a Malay kampong, I never don't feel safe. And I don't think if Cheryl walk into a Chinese neighborhood, or maybe Joel, you walk into a Malay neighborhood, you don't have the feeling I don't feel safe. But these people, they have the feeling that they may get attacked, they don't feel safe. Right? I'm not sure today, but we watch the news, we watch what is going on now politically, and everything is so polarized. I'm sure especially in the big city, this situation is still there. So I personally feel every time I watch TV, movies in America, and they show all these races very happily mixed together and everything, and I keep saying that no, that's not my experience there, you know. So
all right, thanks, Eddie. Yeah, probably it's true. I mean, you have been in the US. I mean, also to a certain extent, I also don't quite understand. You see many movies that they made nowadays. How that they can treat people of different color in that sense. They have to, well, I think there is the lady, the black lady, who was very good at mathematics. How he solved the I don't know what.
Hidden
Yeah.
Figures.
Yeah,
The movie
and the movies that he has to go to the bathroom. I mean,
yeah.
they are basically launching a rocket to the moon, and you can still treat people of color, that kind of thing. You cannot imagine that in Malaysia. You've never experienced that. I mean, you treat people that differently. And I was so happened to. Sorry, I mean, I watched this of late about Palestine kind of stuff. So there is this Jew. They're talking to there is a Jewish APAC summit, whatever, in New York or US. So this Jew are going to those who go there. I mean, outside, he just try to talk to the people there. I mean, all the rabbi and stuff like that. Try to have conversation. And the way this American, American white treat the Jew is basically they are not human. They are, you can be disposed in that sense. So what I'm supposed to be, I mean, we don't have that, and probably in a certain sense they need to control the media because of the anti-Semitism is so true in that sense. I mean, they are basically not human in that sense. Especially you cannot, the way that you treat the Negro color like that, you're not treating human like that if they are,
Yeah,
they
they have a long history. Actually, Western history. In fact, Asia, we don't have that kind of history.
Yeah.
But what we have is the borrowed colonialism. Because they brought their colonial thinking here, and sadly, some people still follow that. But in the West, they have a long history of um, uh, looking down on people of other races. If you look at the early travels, say 1500, when they started colonizing countries, so that means from the 1500s onwards, they would bring back stories of how the people were in other countries. And there was a time in the early stage where they believed that it was that the black man was an inferior species of human, because of the different developmental stages of the country. So they believed that, and the person who formalized that was actually Hitler. That's why Hitler is seen as the worst of the worst when it comes, because he actually fine-tuned racism, and put it as a system of that. But before Hitler, there were already professors writing papers on how the different races are, and some would say that the black man has no soul, that the black person doesn't feel pain. So it was okay to treat them like that, because and in America there was even doctors who practiced surgery like hysterectomy on black women without anesthesia because
Yes.
they felt
Yeah.
they had no pain, So all this was part of that culture of, I think they were just trying to justify their colonialism practices, justify going to a country and taking the best of their best as slaves. To justify that, you have to say that these people that you brought over, they are not of the same uh, uh, value, if you like. They are not of the same development as
Yeah.
the colonial people, so
Yeah.
that you can justify that
Yeah,
inequality.
I saw this one documentary where they catch all these different kind of people they put in the cage. They put
Yeah,
basically a road
yeah,
show in
Mm.
all
yeah,
across the US and in the
yeah. All
Yes.
UK.
those circuses. It was not only in
Yeah,
the US, in Britain also they
yeah,
had,
in Britain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
human,
Yeah.
human man. They put a human there.
Yeah, I mean, who could forget? I mean, for those who are familiar with Hong Kong and Chinese history, when many decades ago, when the British were still very strong in Hong Kong, public parks were out of bounds to Chinese.
Yeah.
You'd have a signboard saying that something along the lines of no entry to dogs and Chinese, for that matter.
Yeah,
You know.
even here, all those big clubs, like every town had a club, a club for the British. Rest house.
Yeah.
In Malacca, they call it the rest house. Bentong, and most small towns have a rest house where the British would go for their afternoon tea and their set lunches.
Mm.
Your locals are not supposed to go there and eat. You can work there
Mm.
as a waiter or cook, but you cannot go
Mm.
there and eat. You're not welcome. You're not a club member. That kind of thing.
Mm.
So and we have taken that over. Now your golf clubs and all, they actually following that same model. What you have to be a member to come in. Of course, the criteria for membership now is you got money to pay, you pay lah, and you come in.
Yeah,
But the
money
model
money is
is
the main
from,
determinant lah.
the model is from the earlier days where membership was
Mm.
determined by your race.
I don't
Yeah.
think any club, anything, except maybe some government institution like university and everything, they will have this quota for race. But other than that, I don't think in Malaysia nobody will do something like that. It will be
No lah, private enterprise now they don't.
I don't think
Private
they can
enterprise
do
they cannot do
anything
that.
like that.
Yes, they will die.
Oh.
but there was a time when it was controlled by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a time when it was controlled by that. You had to be a British person, or if they let you in, you are working in the British administration. Then you
I
can go. Like
see.
if you are a government officer of a certain level, they will let you.
Mm.
That's how they have those grade one government officers. The guys who can sign your anything that you want a commissioner of oath to sign. Last time they could sign. Yeah.
See, different countries have very unique experiences. I went to Kerala in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, on a short holiday, and one of the main what they call it tarikan lah in Kerala are their temples. You see, so and if I'm not mistaken, I think it was this one particular temple lah, Guru Vayur. And there were actually in our group there was 4 of us. There was me, an Indian girl, a white man, and 2 Chinese ladies. 5 of us, sorry. Yeah. So we went as a group and we went to Kerala, and of course wanted to go and visit the temples lah, right? So apparently for a few temples in Kerala, you are not allowed entry if you're not a Hindu.
Oh.
You see? Yes, and many people are not aware, and I had no idea before that. In fact, and I was so surprised. You have to if you don't look if you really don't look Hindu, you've got to actually show proof that you're Hindu. Not sure how that works. So the only one that was physically matching the criteria of being a Hindu, it was this Indian girl that was with us, and of course, I consider myself part Hindu as well. But I felt that I could have gone in, but I did not want to go in because I did not agree with what this was all about.
Yeah.
You see? And many people were not aware. And when I came back and I spoke about this, I remember a relative of mine got so worked up. He was like, oh, no, impossible. There's no such thing, blah, blah, blah. And he just, of course, took a few days to Google, and then he had to apologize because, yes, it's true. There are some temples in India that do not allow non-Hindus to enter, which is something that was very new to me.
Temple or certain parts of the temple?
The entire temple, you just couldn't go in. You had to prove that you're Hindu.
My gosh.
Yeah.
But I had an experience here in Shah Alam with the big mosque, the blue mosque in Shah Alam.
Yes.
I brought a American visitor. She wanted to see the mosque, so I brought her there. Hey, we couldn't go in lah. We couldn't go in.
Huh?
Yeah, we couldn't go in. We could go only to the veranda. And if you want to go in, because three of us went, we were all women, they say the woman cannot go right in, but we can take you to the I think there's a woman section, right? But you have to wear the full jubah and the tudung. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so my friend and I, we said we no need to go in, but she wanted to go in. So they have the sort of like a borrowed lah. They have the thing.
Yeah.
You go and then you go and buy a tudung from whoever is selling tudung there at the mosque.
When was this, by the way? How long ago?
It was maybe 3 years ago, maybe 2017, something like that lah.
Okay, because in February of 2020, just last year, I organized a group of students. I think there was about 10 to 15 of them, and a few of us took them to a few major mosques and temples around KL. And our first destination was this Masjid Al Shakirin, which is near KLCC. You see, and we actually had no Malay girls in. We had Chinese and Indian girls and a foreigner in our group, but we were allowed entry. Of course, we already told the girls beforehand to bring your selendang and all that and make sure you're properly attired lah. Yeah, but we had no problem. We just went there and they basically told us to proceed. We could go to the main prayer area.
I think they are better now. I think they are more open now because I think people are now more aware that you will get visits from other, I think so. But I was very surprised at the Blue Mosque because the Blue Mosque is known as a place for, you advertise it in your tourist brochure.
Very iconic.
So definitely tourists will come, And I can understand if you say, okay, you have to wear the jubah and the tudung, that's fine. In fact, my friend and I, we were all covered up. We had the tudungs, but we didn't want to go in because we said, we don't want to go in and just walk around the perimeter lah. If you let us go into the hall, we would have gone in. But the traveler who was with us, my American friend, she went in, So I'm just thinking whether it is a policy or it is up to the individual, Sahrul, maybe that particular day, the imam there or the imam in charge at that day, the person in charge. It's very
probably
particular.
the mosque also is quite big, so probably there are certain section. I know that there is the one that you can visit. There is one, I think probably in I don't know which wing. There is a proper registration counter. There is a rope there. So because I already picked up a couple of Japanese girls, so they went inside, but they have to put on
they have to wear the jubah
the rope lah. You need any lah. Everything sekali lah, jubah sampai bawah. You just ikat macam kru kat can saja. So that is. But I think most masjid now, they are, especially the iconic one, that's part of the tourist spot that tourists can go lah. You can see. But just speaking about politics just now.
So cute.
Sahrul, you can correct me, but I think most it is also like churches. It depends on each individual community who is running the mosque, what they allow, what they don't allow to a certain extent. Because my students, last time before pandemic, I did send my students out to go to different worship places to to experience. And some of my students, they went to the mosque, and they allow him or her to go in. The ladies, they will just cover and watch them pray, because they say this is our class project I want to experience, and they were very, very friendly. But I also have students who experience and say no, you cannot come in or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it
depends on who is in charge at the
who
time
is
when you
in charge
go
of the
lah.
mosque.
Yeah, true. I mean, now the one that you're talking is all the big mosques. Is they have this they call it mosque tourist guide, mosque tour guide. They really have proper people to show you around the building and stuff like that. But for the small one, even the one masjid where I live, there is none. If it happen that the guy that you met is not so open, they might not let you in. They don't know. Man, this is all across. They just don't know. They just not used to
Yeah.
to this kind of openness.
I know. I know of churches.
Depends, yeah.
Absolutely, I used to attend one church. They absolutely would not allow any Muslim to go in.
Yeah.
They don't care whether you're Iranian Muslim, an Arab Muslim, or Malay Muslim. You cannot come in. I was like, why do you do that? They just want to come in and see. No, cannot.
No, there's also this fear, you see, that people may say you are proselytizing. Yeah.
Yes.
For me, Eddie, was that after the case of those two journalists, who came and took communion and then spit it out and took a photograph?
No, that one is before that. But
I see.
Later the priest came out and the priest said, how could you stop them? No, the church welcome everybody. Yes, you can come in. The priest allowed them to go in. It was the people who was like, what they say, cannot go in. Because they're actually tourists from Iran, and the woman was wearing a robe. She said, can we come in and watch your service? And she said, no, cannot.
I think people are uncomfortable and they are afraid.
Yeah.
Especially if they are dressed fully with a jubah, they may say, "Ayo, they come in, we don't know whether we will be in trouble, but for allowing them in or what." So that is actually a reflection of how much discomfort there is with the other. If people felt more safe and secure to share about religion to each other, you won't have this kind of reaction from the general public, because I think people are wary. I know that, even my family, when I tell them, oh, we are doing this, with my friends and it's all a mixed group, some of my family members are a bit, you sure you're going to do this kind of thing, that kind of thing. You not scared, after the government come after you. I said, before you want to come after me, I'm not doing anything wrong.
It must be very important. It must be very important for them to come after you.
But it's a very sad thing, though. That
it has to grow much bigger for them to come.
Yeah,
it's a very sad thing that it's a very sad thing that you are unable to visit another house of worship.
Yes.
It's a very sad thing. I knew that this was the first time I had organized, and it was right before our first MCO, and I felt that, my God, for my students at least, that was a real eye opener. Here were my students of Chinese descent, Indian descent, a couple of from Pakistan and all that, and they had never been into a Hindu temple, or even me being Punjabi, I had to take them to a Gurudwara. They've never been inside these places before, and they've never even been into a mosque, and to see them actually go in and very respectfully conduct themselves, I thought it was a very beautiful phenomena, quite honestly.
Yeah.